A somber day in Chicago Bears land as Virginia McCaskey, principal owner of the Chicago Bears, passes away at the age of 102 on Thursday, leaving behind one heck of a legacy, having witnessed, quite honestly, every single major event in Chicago Bears team history, and leaving a interesting future ahead for what might lie ahead for the Chicago Bears on the cusp of a very hopefully promising season with a new coaching staff and much, much more. But we're here to talk about Virginia McCaskey's legacy and talking about that coaching staff and what it's looking like thus far up at Hallis Hall. Welcome into the Bear Report podcast. I'm Stephen Johnson. He is Zack Pearson. And Zack, I know this has been coming for a bit of time. It seems like there had been some brewing mentions that Virginia wasn't in the best health and sadly passing away today. But when it comes to the name recognition that she brought to NFL ownership as a whole, I mean, it just a monumental loss, regardless to just what impact it had with the Chicago Bears and the NFL at large.
Yeah, I think the last part there, the NFL at large too, and you could kind of, she wasn't really in the public eye as much the last couple of years. She'd be at events. You'd see her at like some press conferences when they introduced like coaches and I believe she might have been at the Kevin Warren one. I can't remember. She was at Bears 100. That's kind of like the last big event I remember really seeing her at. Maybe a couple of the Piccolo awards, but I think if you just look on social media and you look at the teams around the NFL sending out, their condolences, the Chicago Cubs, I believe, did as well. A couple of the other Chicago sports franchises. You kind of just see the impact that she had. It's a charter franchise. When you think of the Chicago Bears, you think of the 85 Bears, you think of the players, but one of your first thoughts is Virginia McCaskey as well. And yeah, it's a sad day because this week, it's Super Bowl week. It's in New Orleans where the Bears won their only Super Bowl. And it kind of feels like we're getting into hopefully some glory days of Bears football, but kind of make light of the situation. The last play she saw was Cairo Santos beating the Packers, and that probably made her incredibly happy. Obviously, she probably didn't know that was going to be the last play, but to end the season on a positive note, and it sucks. Death sucks, and but like you said, you just see it around the NFL and the Bears and former players and coaches kind of sending their condolences as well.
Yep, absolutely. And I mean, again, a heck of a 102nd birthday present seeing the Bears beat the Packers up at Lambeau.
Yeah.
Really can't ask for more in that situation. But been at the helm of the Bears since 1983, following the death of George Halas. And, her brother dying in 1979. And then obviously Virginia's husband, also heading the team, and then Michael McCaskey up until 2011, and then George still to this day. So, I mean, it's been a family business for the longest time. And you mentioned all of the condolences that have come in, the stories that have come in, just talking about how down to earth she was as a person. And that's been the thing that's kind of carried over this entire family, over the course of the ownership period of these last 105 years now, with starting with George Halas and now with really George McCaskey leading the way with this. And in fact, I mean, George is umpiring baseball and softball games in Sycamore, Illinois.
Yeah.
It's still bizarre to just say that out loud, that there is an NFL owner that is doing that and biding his time. And for as as rough as the whole ownership conversation is, with the rough bumps in the road that have occurred in the last year specifically, that he's still willing to get out there, be a part of his community. And it's really just a legacy that continues to carry from what Virginia made this team to be, is just a down-to-earth family operation.
Yeah, and you see it if you ever go to a game, you see him walking around. Sometimes he walks around the tailgates. He's always at training camp, walking around, talking to players. So, I mean, for as much flack as they got and he got, he gets. He still cares. It's not like he cares about the fans. He listens. He tries. It's kind of crazy because did you see the yacht that the Jaguars owner pulled up to Super Bowl weekend? It's got like 19 bedrooms. It's like, and then you see George, and he literally drives like the most basic Honda car you could get. He's going around training camp on a scooter at times. But that's just who he is. He's not going to change. He's old school. They're an old school family. It's hard bringing up the ownership stuff now just because it's kind of soon. But we'll have to see. I mean, she owned, I think the 30% of the franchise, which, is enough to have majority stake with all the partners and everything. And, it's a hard conversation they're going to have. It's probably one, we'll have to have later on in a podcast episode, breaking it all down. But that's who they are. They're old school football family. And there's no big like financial influence into their ownership at all. Like you see, with people buying other teams like the Mets, you see Cohen, he's made money off other things, kind of things like that. So they've built it up from the ground up. And it's just, it's a sad day. It sucks. And she did get it. They did put her in the in memoriam on the NFL honors. If anyone's watching, they got her in that. So it's tough. And
Yeah, and we'll get to a little bit of the mention of the NFL honors here as well, for some things that have occurred as far as the updates to where Caleb Williams finished in the Offensive Rookie of the Year standings. And I know you can make argues here and there about just how how much that has warranted itself or maybe not warranted itself for what's been going on, but. All things considered, again, you mentioned, it at this point, it is all about, just respecting, remembering, honoring the legacy that Virginia brought to the Chicago Bears. But again, a very uncertain future lies ahead if it is going to remain a family business. I know that, there's been talks of the minority owners and maybe some other big names out there who would be interested just because of everything that's going on with the Chicago Bears as of right now. And again, not just on the field with, Caleb Williams, with this new coaching staff and everything happening here, but again, the stadium talk. I know Kevin Warren's favorite topic, again, being a very much a big presence for where this team could potentially go in the years to come.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting because they had the stadium stuff, and Roger Goodell kind of had a bland answer again when asked about that, and it's a new direction for the franchise, and they're starting to put together their coaching staff. Ben Johnson, I guess we kind of get into that. They announced the hire of Dennis Allen as defensive coordinator. They announced the hire of Declan Doyle as offensive coordinator. Super young. I believe he's like 28, right? 28 years old or close to that.
Makes me wonder what I'm doing with my life at this point in time.
Yeah, what were you doing at 28? Yeah, I'm like, wow, I feel like a failure almost at times. This guy's going to be an offensive coordinator coaching an up-and-coming quarterback prospect, in Caleb Williams. But, there's been other rumors. I mean, they kept Richard Hightower. I thought that was kind of an interesting one. And it is kind of like, if you kind of look back in the NFL, coaches that are retained with new staffs, majority is like special teams. And I don't know why that is, but I guess the familiarity with the players. You're coaching players on both sides of the football that's on your roster. So you kind of know these guys, and it's kind of easier, I don't want to say like take command from a head coach, but Richard Hightower is going to respect the head coach, and it's kind of just easier to process that. We've heard some other names float around. They haven't announced many. If you look at their website, it's defensive quality control guys, offensive quality control, strength. The only one on there that they retained as position coach, Jim Dre, who the tight ends coach.
I'm still trying to figure that one out.
Yeah, it's got to be. So let me see. It's got to be. I believe there is a tie to, let's see, no, he wasn't in New Orleans or anything like that. There's got to be a tie to it. I don't know. It's a little, that one's a little confusing to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, he stays, and the rest, have just kind of all been rumored hires so far, and they will be finalized probably within the next week.
Well, and that being the big thing is that, for what this offensive staff is turning into right now, it is clear that there is both a balance of new and old for what this is, from an NFL experience standpoint. You mentioned guys like Dennis Allen, who I think that's pretty much the big hype. This is probably the most exciting defensive coordinator hire we've seen since Vic Fangio, that brings in that track record of being able to get the job done, is very hard-nosed, asks a lot out of his defense, and his defense responds. You talk to a lot of players around the league that played against Dennis Allen defenses, including Tom Brady, who did not like playing against the Saints.
No.
When Dennis Allen was there, and Tom Brady did not do very well in his games against Dennis Allen defenses, if you look at those stats as well. So in that regard, there is promise to what he brings to the table. A lot of talk about how the linebackers in the Bears scheme will more than likely thrive based on what he was able to get out of the Saints. So that probably spells well for TJ Edwards as well as Tremaine Edmonds. And then again, just being more willing to attack the offense. Again, I think that was one of the big hangups from a lot of fans this past year and years prior, that there just wasn't enough emphasis put on the blitz, to put on just that pressure. And it was the sit back, cover two and wait, which, that was Matt Eberflus's shtick to what he was calling. And now it's literally a complete 180 for what we should be expecting moving on here. And I'm honestly curious to see specifically what we're going to get out of looking at who they might be potentially targeting in the draft, in free agency. There's the talk of Myles Garrett. I know that would destroy their cap, and it's probably something that Bears fans don't need to rely on right now as an idea, because I mean that'd be probably what, a third of their cap space if they end up going after Myles Garrett, plus who knows how many picks. I know there's a lot of people saying it would be Khalil Mack type level, but it's an older defensive end, but it's still a guy coming off a double-digit sack year, only 2 years left on the deal, probably looking at a first and a second and maybe like a later fourth or fifth round pick. So maybe not as hefty as what Khalil Mack did, but the ramifications, given how many holes are on this team, there needs to be a reality check put into place here, that the youth and investing in the draft stock that Ryan Poles has built here needs to be followed through. And you can't just waste it off on a guy who's going to be 32, 33 years old by the time his contract is all said and done in 2 years.
Yeah, it does kind of feel like that Max trade. Like, they feel like they have their quarterback. They feel like they're a piece away on defense. They got the pieces on offense, newer head coach, new head coach. Yeah, parting ways with what number? Number 10? Yeah, parting ways with number 10. I don't know, man. Because then you were looking next year and it's gonna be like, well, Caleb Williams drops back and there he goes, sacked again. And it's like, I don't know. I need them to beef up the trenches on the offensive line. But yeah, the thing with Dennis Allen that really kind of caught my attention was the aggressive style. And he's talking about how he wants the corners to be physical, and he wants not only a tackle, they want to play the ball, they want to finish through the play and all that stuff. And he singled out Kyler Gordon. I think that was very important. I think Kyler Gordon, Ben Johnson singled him out too. I'm really interested to see what they do with him and how they deploy him. And he's up for a contract extension as well. I think he's earned it. I think he's probably one of your better defensive backs in the team, one of the better defensive players. So I like that. What does it mean for Tyreek Stevenson? I don't know. He kind of in a way, I know a lot of people said, the accountability stuff with Dennis Allen and Ben Johnson, but in a way, Tyreek Stevenson play kind of like his play kind of fits what Dennis Allen wants. Kind of the hard nose doesn't, kind of, he's going to give you those moments. He's going to talk his trash. He's going to make some boneheaded plays. But he's going to make some plays too. We'll have to see about that. But yeah, I was very intrigued by that with Dennis Allen, the aggressiveness and kind of getting back to that hard nosed type football.
And not only that, but the other exciting part of this, and you mentioned the cornerbacks specifically, and again, I don't believe it's been officially announced yet, but Al Harris being brought in as the defensive backs and passing game coordinator on the defensive side of the ball. He's been with Dallas. Again, if that name sounds familiar, he terrorized the Bears for years when he was with the Packers. And again, a guy that just gets it, who is willing to be that ferocious defensive back to get his hands dirty, to get things done. And again, you look at what the Dallas secondary has been able to do. Deron Bland, again in 2023, sets the NFL record for most pick sixes in a season with 5. You have Trayvon Diggs before that when he had 11 interceptions in 2021. And so it's been a very successful run for him in Dallas since 2020. And again, bringing in that experience as a Pro Bowl corner to get guys like Gordon, to get guys maybe back on track like Tyreek Stevenson, who's going to have a clear bar that he needs to clear in order to perform better, because it was plain and simple not a good season for Tyreek Stevenson. And I think they've got 2 guys in place right now that are going to be working with him directly, that are going to help him curve those behavioral issues and hopefully those mental mistakes that we've continued to see throughout this past season. And so I'm really excited about that, because I just from that aspect alone, I don't think there's much more you could have asked for in bringing these 2 guys in.
Yeah, well, with Harris too. I mean, like he's familiar with the division, a Pro Bowl player, really good. And you look at Dallas secondary, and they had a lot of injuries. They still played at a pretty high level when he was there.
Yeah.
Deron Bland had that. Deron Bland had that huge year a couple years ago, and we know what Trayvon Diggs can do. So yeah, I'm excited about those hires. I love the Al Harris hire. I think that's going to be fantastic for the secondary. A guy who is going to kind of relate to Jalen Johnson, being one of the, Al Harris when he played was, one of the top corners in the NFC at times. So it's kind of like he's going to be able to relate to Jalen Johnson, maybe, a little bit of the disrespect stuff he'll understand from Jalen Johnson. Because it kind of felt like Al Harris never really got all the respect all the time. Like there was definitely better corners when he was playing, in the NFL, in the division. Maybe NFC, but yeah, I like it I love it for Jalen Johnson, love it for Tyreek Stevenson. And the Dennis Allen hire overall, I'm excited about the aggressiveness. The other one, Antoine Randall L comes back home. Thornton played at Indiana. Was with Ben Johnson in Detroit, the wide receivers coach. He's coming over as wide receivers coach, right?
Yes.
Did he take?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. I'm being sick. I've had my whole brain has been fogged, but I love that hire because look what he got out of those wide receivers in Detroit. Like he helped Jamison Williams take the next step in his game. Obviously, St. Brown is a name. Couple other guys that had big years. Yeah, I really like the Antoine Randall Allen, and he's also another guy. Like he's not going to put up with shit either, and he's not going to take crap. And I feel like last year we kind of, the Bears wide receiver core kind of just skated by at times in a way. And nothing again. I mean, I know all would happen, but might get a little bit more motivation out of some guys on this roster.
Yeah, and I mean again, the nice thing about it is you're also talking about a guy in Randall L who, in all honesty, had a very unique path in his career. Started with the Steelers, moved over to Washington, and I mean was a quarterback I mean, I think a lot of people forget that he was a quarterback and then shifted over to wide receiver after he
Throw
made
a
his
touchdown
entrance
pass to
into the
Super Bowl.
NFL. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so again, having to adapt again, the adaptation piece, it seems to be kind of a running theme with what this staff is kind of putting together here. And I'm very excited about it because I wasn't entirely sure if Ben Johnson was going to get anybody off of that Lions staff, because I mean, frankly, it was looking a little iffy as it was, and maybe it was just going to be, Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson, and that was going to be it. And then all of a sudden, the Lions are now having to replace 8 or 9 coaches, people just getting plucked every which way,
Oh man,
and it's
crazy.
going to look like a brand new staff in Detroit in during the 2025 season. But again, you see what Antoine Randall has been able to do with Detroit, and even prior to that with the Buccaneers. Again, it's the success that
Yeah.
continues to follow for what he's been able to build. And again, a younger mind that's seeing the game in a different way. And honestly, my guess is he's not going to be here long. I think there's probably a path for him
Yeah, he's
where you're
gonna.
looking at him as an offensive coordinator down the road with another team, and then eventually a head coach, maybe in 7 to 10 years. That's probably the path that Antoine Randall is on, because he's got that type of hype built into him. And then you have a guy that's already your offensive coordinator in Declan Doyle at 28 years old, that
Yeah.
again is we'll see. Who knows? I mean, maybe he'll be here for a few years. I highly doubt anybody's going to hire like a 31-year-old head coach, but
Well,
someone might be feeling spicy and say, we're going to set the world on fire and
yeah.
watch this whole thing burn.
The thing with Doyle is though he's not gonna be calling the plays, so it's like
Right.
it's one of those where he can move up and he can get a promotion elsewhere too. But yeah, it's ideally he's in Chicago for a couple of years and the offense is humming. Um, the two other ones that were obviously notable, and again, none of these official yet, just reports close to deals. Eric Bieniemy now joining as a running backs coach. Um, experience. That's what that tells me.
Can we talk about just the fall from grace for him, though? I mean,
Yeah, well,
we are 3 years removed from him being talked about as a head coaching candidate in the NFL. He
yeah,
moves to the Commanders. It goes horribly wrong. He
yeah,
gets fired. He ends up going to UCLA. The team is terrible. He can't get things called correctly. He gets fired from UCLA, and now he's back with the Bears. I mean, it just slowly making his way lower down the ladder. I'm intrigued by it, but at the same time, I'm like, what's wrong with him?
yeah. Well, the the personal life stuff on Wikipedia page, that there's that stuff you can go into. I don't know. I mean, I like it because it's experience. He's been around, Patrick Mahomes. And there was a report out that he chose to kind of take the Bears job. There was other interest. UCLA thing was really weird because that was like parting, like they framed it as like they were parting ways, knowing he was going to go to the NFL anyway. I don't know, that it is a little weird too. So there's definitely question mark. I mean, there's definitely should be question marks surrounding it, but am I going to complain? No, I don't. I don't think it's a terrible hire. It is still kind of like what other jobs did he have, things like that. The other hire I liked, Dan Rochar, the offensive line coach. Talked to a couple of people that cover Tulane. No nonsense guy. He came in and helped. Tulane. I think he came in the year after they went to the Cotton Bowl, and he kind of revamped that offensive line. They should have some draft picks, I think, this year, at least one, and next year they'll have one or two on the offensive line. And yeah, for what I heard, I mean, he's a great teacher. He's a hard-nosed guy. He's not gonna be easy on you. He's gonna let you know how it is, and that's what this offensive line needed, man. They needed toughness. Not to be a meatball, but we got to go back to that toughness in a way, which we haven't really seen.
And not just that, but again, in I've heard some concern about it, but at the same time, I think you have to look back to just the success overall with what the teams of the past were, but it's another Saints connection as well. Again, the offensive line coach when Drew Brees was in New Orleans, and again, those were some very, very good offensive lines that the Saints had in place. Yes, they invested in the offensive line, which makes me think the Bears are going to invest very heavily in the offensive line this offseason, which, I mean, Ben Johnson said as much that there needs to be better play out of the offensive line. He made that very clear in his opening press conference. But again, watching a zone blocking scheme get implemented and a guy who has had success at the highest level and be able to work with a Hall of Fame quarterback and understanding the types of protections that are needed with a guy who is a gunslinger, who has a strong arm and has the talent. I think it's going to be a good understanding for what the Bears need in rolling out frankly, a finally a seasoned offensive line coach that has not been on this staff for many years.
Yeah, and well, they're gonna have probably so you bring back Darnell Wright. Let's just say they bring back Braxton Jones. You're gonna probably have 3 starters on the offensive line, new ones. Maybe Coleman Shelton returns. But this is a guy you're gonna be looking at picks, maybe number 10, you look at Will Campbell or Kelvin Banks or Tyler Booker or someone like that on your interior. So yeah, I mean it's obviously an important hire. I think it's probably the most important hire outside of the head coach and the coordinator. It's the most important position hire. So yeah, we'll have to see. I mean, I feel like they're going with the staff that Ben Johnson obviously has some connections to. Some guys have probably been presented to him that, recommendations. And he kind of wants to build like almost that Dan Campbell culture is what I'm kind of getting from it.
Yeah, yeah, and honestly, it's definitely a culture that is sorely needed. I think we saw the good guy approach, the buddy buddy approach. It had its moments where it seemed like it was going to work towards the end of last year, where things kind of materialized, and even the beginning of this year. Again, a 4-2 start. Again, there's the argument that they were playing a bunch of soft teams, but then the discipline aspect coming into play that just was not there. There was no one there that was willing to hold the players accountable. And it was just domino after domino that led us to here. And I think based on, again, what you mentioned and what Ben Johnson wants to build here, mimicking something similar to what is in Detroit right now is just the no nonsense approach. And I don't want to sound like an old man, but in today's day and age, the no nonsense, like hard nosed, like get in your face, make sure you're doing your thing. You don't see it as much these
No,
days,
no. You need
but
it.
you need it,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to a group of grown men there to play a physical, tough game. You want them to bring that physicality, and it needs to come out in the coaching so that
Yeah,
it
100%.
mirrors to what happens on the field.
Yeah, because we saw times this year, like go back to accountability.
Yeah.
Just, things were happening in training camp that should not have been happening. And that's what it kind of goes back to. And I feel like the staff will be a lot better suited to kind of handle that, I think.
So question for you on this then,
Yes.
because I mean, based on the makeup of this roster, and again, talking about what happened in training camp, what happened in the mini camps, is there concern in your mind that there might be players that respond to this the incorrect way?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
No, I wouldn't. No. I mean, what happened last year was just like, you had players speaking out, obviously. You had the team just pretty much, all right, let's back it in. That the Washington game killed them. And by the way, the Washington play was a play of the year the NFL awards. So there's some more
Yeah,
salt.
the next gen.
But
Yeah.
I don't think, do you think it'll be? I don't think so.
No.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, no, it's I maybe there are players who are actually going to be free agents that I think just responsive wise, seeing some videos of some specific offensive linemen that, running drills on the side of the field that have not had the capability to fully stay healthy during their tenure with the team.
Yeah.
I kind of worry about those types that
Yeah.
if you're going to get pushed, you want guys that have the makeup to be durable, to not consistently getting injured
Yeah.
and maybe falling back on those excuses versus going out and getting guys that want to be out there
Yeah.
and will push
I
every
can see
play.
that. I think you're going to see a rejuvenated team. I think they're all behind. I mean, DJ Moore said, well, he was like scared of Ben Johnson or something when he first heard, get ready to be, get ready to be uncomfortable or whatever he said. I like
Yeah.
that, man. I think, I think a lot of these guys know like DJ Moore's here for the long haul. Like you got to win here. So yeah, I just think they had to get rid of some stuff in that building, and I think they did.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
they absolutely did. And so speaking of that play, why is that the play of the year? I mean,
Well,
it's literally just to throw it up and get it. You're telling me that's the best play? You're telling me that the
so
backwards leap that Saquon Barkley had,
there you go. There you go.
that is not the play of the year? Like, that was incredible.
I mean, there was a couple other ones I'm trying to think off the top of my head. There were, I mean, let's be real. Like all credit to the Commanders there, but like the Bears messed up more on that play than I say the Commanders did right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
Tyreek Stevenson not rushing 4, rushing 3, having a spy. Tyreek Stevenson, like I mean, Jaden
Yeah.
Daniels ran around he didn't even run. He was like
No.
walking, lightly walking. So yeah, it's just they play next year though. So there you go.
Yeah. Get the revenge. And then Caleb Williams coming in 10th in offensive
Yeah.
rookie of the year, scoring just 2 fifth-place votes
Drake
tonight.
May was ahead of him. I love Drake May. I don't understand that. You can make a case. And Jane Daniels deserved it. I'm shocked Brock Bowers didn't get a couple more votes. He got one first place vote.
I mean, he set every tight end rookie record and just
Shattered it.
yeah,
Playing with
nothing.
a terrible crop of quarterbacks.
Yep. Desmond Ritter.
Yeah, like nothing against Jane Daniels. He was going to win. He deserved it. Malik Neighbors was up there. Brian Thomas Jr. I'm kind of glad he got kind of his respect up there because I kind of felt like a guy who could fall to be where Caleb was at when he had he had a great rookie season. The Bo Nix thing, we'll see. Who was the other? Was there an offensive lineman in there?
Joe Alt was
Yeah,
ahead of
Joel.
Caleb
Yeah,
Williams too.
I don't know, dude. Caleb Williams statistically had a pretty damn good season.
He did.
Like not even for Bear standards, for like NFL rookies. I don't know.
I mean, and that it's tough to justify it from it gets into the whole R wins a quarterback stat thing, and clearly when it comes to award season, yes, the answer is yes, whether you want to argue that or not, but that's just what it is.
Yes.
And I think that definitely plays a part in it. Losing 11 games in a row plays a part in it. There's a lot that you can say, okay, are we really being serious about this? When frankly, there's a lot of other players that are on that list. Obviously, Brock Bowers not one of them, but a lot of other players on that list that are tied to winning teams. You look at Lad McConkey on there, Joe Alt, both with the Chargers. Brian Thomas had
Labs.
I mean, Brian
Was
Thomas had a heck of a close of the season.
Yeah.
Bucky Irving with the Buccaneers had a
he
fantastic rookie
he was on
season.
there, right?
Yep.
Yeah, he was on there. Yeah, it is what it is.
I mean, let's put it this way. Anthony Thomas won Offensive Rookie of the Year back in 2001.
A-Train.
How did that turn out?
Yeah. Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace won executive and coach of the year.
Ugh.
Remember that? I mean,
maybe it's not a terrible thing that Bears went home empty-handed tonight.
Yeah, no, I don't think Caleb's probably worried about it either.
No.
It is what it is.
Hey, we're winning 2025. Beat the Packers, got the top coach.
Yeah.
Everything's coming up roses.
Only unbeaten NFC North team in 2025, right?
There you go.
Oh, I hate saying that.
Hey, it's all truth. It's all truth.
Yeah. Like I said, my brain has just been fogged, so there you go.
But once they do announce everything here and things get a little bit more clear to what happens with this coaching staff, and again, the combine right around the corner, the Senior Bowl occurring, it's getting into the turn of draft season and the Bears stocking up with picks and obviously free agency before that in about a month.
Yeah.
The free agency frenzy will begin,
Oh,
and
man.
we'll see what happens. It's going to be here before we know it.
We'll be busy.
We definitely will be, and we'll be here to cover it all every step of the way. So that's going to do it here for us tonight on the Bear Report podcast. We do appreciate everybody tuning in, listening regarding the passing of Virginia McCaskey, as well as what's going on with this Bears coaching staff. And we'll get more information about that, maybe a little bit more once they're all turned to the pit of media in Chicago. We'll see how many of them actually get to have that conversation, but should be good nevertheless. So for Zack Pearson, I'm Steven Johnson. Again, thanks for listening to this episode of the Bear Report podcast, and we will talk to you next time right here at bearreport.com.